This kind of work takes time. Not just hours in the shop, but time measured in miles, in seasons, in the quiet hum of an engine at dawn. When you bring a truck like this back to life, you're not just restoring steel and paint. You're restoring a piece of America. This 64 C10 was born in a factory where calloused hands and quiet pride shaped every bolt, every line of steel. Built by people who believed in doing things right the first time, and a country that still knew the value of hard work. It rolled out on the open road in an era when the nights were darker, the stars were brighter, and the hum of tires on asphalt was the soundtrack of freedom. When the open road was more than pavement, it was a promise. It worked the fields, rolled through small town main streets, parked outside diners where the coffee was always hot. It didn't just haul, it carried the soul of a nation that believed in building things to last. And now, 61 years later, it's still here. The paint may have faded, the chrome may have dulled, but the spirit, untouched. We've laid down the primer, the black comes next, then the blue. The same bold blue that flies over courthouses, schoolyards, and every patch of ground we call our own. Not to cover history, but to carry it forward. Every scratch, every dent, every mile, still there, under the shine. Because the old ways still matter. The freedom of the open highway still calls, and the soul of this country still beats strongest when the road disappears into the horizon. This truck isn't being brought back to sit silent. It's being brought back to where it belongs, on the road, in the wind, free. At the Garage R&R, we believe that's worth the work. Because when we restore a machine like this, we're also restoring something deeper. American built, American restored, and ready for the road ahead. This is a multi-stage process. So yes, we're going to be sanding and painting again, just like what we did in the last video, but we're going to be doing things a little bit differently because now we're to the point where we're sculpting. This is our sculpting process right here, where the bond between driver and machine is being created. So a lot of people skip this section out. You know, it gets edited out, or they speed it up, or use movie magic to just, it's done. But I'm going to show you every little thing that I'm doing because this is so important. This is the art of restoring classic cars. Sometimes it gets pretty monotonous. The labor gets pretty repetitive, but it's most important because that's where you start having your connection to the vehicle, where you start learning its soul. You know, every one of these cars has a soul, and when you start doing something like this, the vision you have in your head is going to start morphing and changing as time goes on. So it's going to be interesting. We're going to come out with something completely different than what we originally started with, but I can't wait to see what the results are going to look like. So let's go ahead and sand down this really nice prime coat we've got here, get it all smoothed out, and see what we're left with, and we'll check back here in a little bit. So you're probably wondering, what in the heck have I done? I've sanded through the prime coat and now we're gonna have to repaint it. Nope, this is all part of a plan. Let me tell you a story. Since 1972, there's this guy who used to work for us. He was a real lazy guy, right? He never really wanted to do anything. We called him Mr. Lean. Skinny as much as he liked to lean against things. So right here, he's a bit taller than me. He'd lean against the truck all the time, right? And he'd just sit and watch, shake his head. Ah, you know what I mean? Well, over time, him sitting there wearing on it, his Wranglers wore a hole through the paint down to the metal, right? How about this story? One of the workers, he used to have to bring his kid to work, right? Long days out there in those fields. Get real hot, real bored. Never had much to do for him. So he'd lean against the truck. I'm bored. There's nothing to do. Wear mark. Believable wear marks. That's what that whole premise was. So to make this not look manufactured, like we've got manufactured patina going on here, I tried to make sure I put those wear marks in spots that would be believable. Now obviously this will not be as big as that is, right? It won't be just this massive metal gash in the side of the truck with the blue paint on it. If you go and look at the other side of the truck, you can see on that black paint, there's a little bit of the metal peeking through from underneath, adding that other layer of just substance, you know, that depth. That is exactly what this is doing here. So once we get the black on here and eventually with the blue, we'll be able to sand through and make that look like what it is over here. But obviously, we gotta make sure it doesn't look the same. We're not trying to make symmetry, we're just trying to make it look honest work, right? That this side of the truck here had been original, making old paint, or new paint, excuse me, look old again. And so that's why I've got these marks here. So I mean, that's even down here on the fender here where it's been worn away. That right there is natural, where a natural wear point would be. It's just like how this right here would be a natural wear point. Anywhere where it's poking out, people would lean. Strap right here. You know, there's a hook that goes right here, and there could have been a strap that, you know, wore this away depending on, you know, whatever was being used or strapped down to. And that's even all the way down to all the little dents and dings. We can't have this looking perfect because the driver's side of the truck doesn't look perfect, and it's got that perfect patina, it's got that good look, and that's what we're trying to create over here. So taking all the dents out and making it look absolutely perfect would just make it look weird. So that's why it looks the way it does. So now all I have to do is wipe it down with some mineral spirits, get it all cleaned up, and then we can roll the truck out and paint it with our first bit of black and see what we're working with. Okay, so we've got our first coat of black on. Now this is just, like I said, first coat. So, I mean, it's not perfect, but a lot of where it's not perfect is gonna get sanded on anyway. Once we get the buffing wheel down on all this, after it all cures and dries, after we do all the blue and everything like that, a lot of the imperfections that you see should buff out. I mean, we'll be doing a lot of buffing. I'm hoping that maybe even some of the buffing that we're going to do is going to achieve some of the patina that I'm looking for, that I've been able to get in other places, like on the front driver fender. That didn't all used to be black, it used to be blue, but after going through and buffing it over, we've been able to get that kind of result just from buffing. So I'm still hopeful, I'm looking forward, and yeah, rattle can. Yep, you're darn right, rattle canning it up. But that's also part of the experiment. You know, we're doing this on a budget. We're not spending hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars to do a paint job on a truck that we're probably going to end up repainting the entire truck later on down the road. So right now, this is just kind of, can we do this? Can we make this look somewhat presentable, you know, to where, you know, we're not trying to win awards here. We're just trying to make it look good, make it look passable and halfway decent. So that's why we use rattle can. And really, it's the easiest way. Yeah, using a spray gun is a heck of a lot nicer, but you've got the air compressor, the lines, the gun, the mixing of the paint, the booth. If you don't have a booth, you have to make a booth or try to do it outside in the rain. Right as I got this done, just as I finished off the can, I was going to chat out there, but then it started raining, so I had to hurry up and back the truck in here before our fresh paint here got wet, which it kind of did. But it is what it is. We'll get it figured out. So here within the next hour or 48 hours, we'll be able to add the second coat of paint. So I'm going to hopefully add the second coat of paint here in the next 28 minutes. And we'll be able to get that down, and then we'll have to do the long sitting, drying, curing time. But during that time, after that time, I will go through and sand this all back down and get our spots back, but not completely. Remember, we're matching the other side. So get those spots back where there's a little bit of metal coming through, but we won't have to go through the prime layer as well. So, and then after that's done, we'll be able to apply the blue paint. Now, when we apply the blue paint, we are not going to want to put on a heavy coat over what we're going to be sanding over anyway. That'd just be wasting paint at that point. But we'll put a heavy load down here on the very bottom. And right now, you can see every little dent, nick, tweak, scratch, and everything because it's black paint. So anyway, let me just use some movie magic, and now we're done with the second coat of paint. I know it doesn't look like it, but trust me, there's now 2 coats of paint on this. It just kind of looks like I took off the wrapping paper. But there is 2 coats of paint. Now we have to let it sit there and cure. It actually turned out a lot better than I thought it was going to, given that it's, you know, rattle can. But we've got a little bit of orange peel here and there, but that is all going to come out because we're going to be sanding right back over that again for our patina and wear and all that. We got to sand this all down anyway for when we put the blue on, but we've got to let it sit and cure for at least 48 hours before we can do anything sanding wise. Because I mean, it's dry to the touch right now, but it's still pretty tacky. Up here, we still got work to do on this door and possibly the hood. My idea here is to just paint up to this point right here, leaving this section alone. Now, why am I doing that? Well, I'm trying to keep as much of the original paint that is on the truck. I don't want to cover it any. Back here on the back of the bed, a lot of this was painted over by someone else, but that is why I stopped right here, because this is where the original paint continues and looks like it should. We'll be able to bleed that in because it won't be a perfectly straight line, because you don't want this straight line right here, because if you could come here and put your finger on it, you would feel that there is a ridge there. But we're going to sand that down. It's not going to be 100% normal, like a straight edge. It's going to have some character to it. We're also probably going to put the tape line above this little line right here when we paint it blue, so that we don't have it all on the same little bit here. So there's a bit more of a fade. And that's exactly what we're going to do up here, because we can put the tape line right here on this little indentation where we split from the top of the cab to the bottom of the cab, or the bottom of the door. And we can play with it, but my imagination is with leaving this section here and painting it black and then making it blue and then maybe doing or painting it black, then painting that red primer stuff, like the driver door, and then painting it blue, we can sand through that like you've got your arm out the window. Obviously, this side would have less wear because it's the passenger side. You don't often have a passenger, and that passenger would also have to stick their arm out the window. So it doesn't happen as much as it would happen on the driver's side. But I'm also thinking that's a good wear point for grabbing the door and closing it. You know what I mean? So we'll be able to get that matched in. Oh, and just the other day, I figured we got some work to do to the door. Right down here on the hinge, the actual pin itself has been sheared off. So we got to take that apart and get that fixed so that we can actually close our door correctly. Just found that, you know? You never know what you're going to find when you start going through that. So anyway, that's the plan for the door. And I'm not going to paint this section right here. I'm going to leave that. There's some kind of cool patina here and there where you can see where there was work being done to this truck before it got here. We don't want to erase that history either. You know, there's been many hands that have touched this truck to bring it back to life. We're just finishing it out because we're the next stewards of the vehicle. There's also a really cool little green spot right here that is the only bit of green on the truck, and I thought it was kind of interesting. So I'd like to try to keep that because, you know, it's one of those things. Now for the hood, I don't think I'm going to do anything to the hood right now. I want to see what's going to happen back here with this bed, what's going to happen here with the door, and then we'll move on to maybe doing the hood. But I don't know. We just got to kind of see where this is going to go. What do you guys think? Do you think we should go ahead and do the hood as well since we're already doing the door and this part of the bed? We won't be touching this fender at all, but you know, just kind of idea out there. Let you guys think about it. And then the other thing is painting the top of the truck. Now the top of the truck, it's all rusty. There's some Bondo up there. We definitely need to paint it, but should we paint it blue or white? A lot of these old Chevys were painted white all the way down to here. I'm not going to do that. Sylvie's unique. Our Chevy is unique. We don't want to look like every other Chevy C10 out there. So maybe painting the top back to blue would be more interesting than painting it white. I'll leave I'll leave that up to your guys' decision. Anyway, I want to thank you guys so much for stopping by the garage today. I know this was kind of a lot of the same of what you saw before in the previous video, but that's all part of the process. And I want to share every bit of this journey with you. I don't want to leave any small thing out because even the smallest things can have the biggest impact. I'll see you all right back here at the garage in the next video. If you're new here to the channel, think about subscribing and hitting that notification bell. It's 100% free. And plus, gotta see how this turns out, right? You should also check out our playlists. We've got a couple of them for multiple different projects, as well as one you can binge watch of everything we've ever done on our restorations. We've got cars, trucks, tractors, motorcycles, you name it. So I'll see you guys all right back here in the next video where hopefully we'll be putting some blue on and wearing this thing out a little bit.